Ah, yes. Welcome to What's on Mike's shirt here, Tim's Final Confessions. My point of view, you can't see what I'm wearing anyway, but I'm joined, of course, by Mike Ladano from Grab a Stack of Rock. And Mike is here we're going to talk about reissues that have
Yeah.
come out in the year 2023 because for my little corner of music there's seems like there's been a few and some significant ones, so I thought it was enough that Mike and I could get together and talk about them. And I'm not 100% sure what all Mike has. I don't think he knows what I have, so I'm going to let Mike lead the way.
Okay.
And if he'll start, and if I've got what he's talking about, I'll talk about it then too. It'll be fun.
It
It'll
will
be
be.
fun, they said. So thanks, Mike, for sitting in as always, and we'll talk about Grab a Stack at the end. And but yeah, reissues 2023. Some good stuff came out this year that we've been waiting on.
Some good stuff came out this year. I specifically have three that I will be talking about tonight. I don't have a lot of the other ones because, hey, let's face it, money is tight these days, and I buy a lot of music. You buy a lot of music, and a lot of these reissues come in the form of box sets now.
Yeah,
And there's a few I don't have yet, like Black Sabbath Live Evil is one that I really, really want for my collection. I don't have it yet, but I had to make a choice that day when I saw Live Evil on the shelf. And I went with a box set that was a little bit more expensive. I think it was $65, but I might as well start with the big one. I feel that this may be the reissue of the year right here. And I haven't even watched the Blu-ray or the DVD. It's a DVD. I haven't even watched that yet. But I did listen to this all the way through a couple of times, and I believe you are a fan. We both own a Permission to Land, as we've seen. Now, what is that, Tim? Is that the reissue? Like a
that's just the two disc, two
okay.
CD reissue, which you'll have everything that's on here.
So I would assume that's the first two CDs of this set, which includes Permission to Land, the whole album, of course. And then as added on to that album, some bonus track demos,
Yeah.
which are really tight and really interesting to me was Nothing's Gonna Stop Us, which didn't come out until Hotcakes. They went all the way back to the demos for Permission to Land for
Well,
that particular song.
and Live Till I Die, which they didn't use until the extra tracks on Easter is canceled even later.
Yeah. So
So
that's a
yeah,
good point too.
and the
So
CD2 on here is singles, B-sides, and non-album tracks.
yeah, and the first three
So
tracks there are the EP, the Very Rare Darkness EP that came out first, and they're very slightly different versions, but I've never heard them before. So it's like, holy crap, I was so excited. Um, we also have the very rare Get Your Hands Off My Woman Again in both
yeah,
regular and clean versions. Now, this was a track that they did with Roy Thomas Baker when they were kind of testing the waters for their next album.
yeah.
Was never released physically that I'm aware of, except maybe in promo form, but that would be very expensive. I was one of the lucky few who downloaded the MP3 when it first came out, and it's one of the things that I get frequent emails about. Can you send me your rare Get Your Hands Off My Woman Again? Well, now you can buy it, folks. Now you can buy it. You can get it CD quality right there, clean and dirty. And I think there's a complete set of studio B sides here.
Oh yeah, it's got all the out of my hands, making out, physical sex, bareback. Of course, I went and bought all those CD singles. Now they're not useless, but it's nice to have all of those in one spot. And how prolific are these guys? I mean, they always write more than they put on an album.
And I think, like other bands such as Iron Maiden and Oasis, the B sides are album quality for the most
Yeah.
part. For the
You know
most
what?
part.
It's a UK thing. I think it's a
Yeah.
UK thing because um, you don't get that so much with North American bands.
It's the importance of the singles charts there. My buddy
Yeah,
T Rev, who's been on my show a couple of times, he spent some time in England in his college years, and he told me you walk into a record store, or in the 90s, you'd walk into a record store in England, and they would have an entire wall of CD singles. It was
yeah.
very important. You didn't see that here. Not CD
No,
singles.
some stores would carry them, some wouldn't. You couldn't count on finding the newest CD single every
No.
time. And one band that comes to mind, an American band that did do that, is Metallica. But I think they were following the lead of a lot of the UK bands.
They were
what I
an
mean? Because they were
international
so
band.
influenced. So yeah. This is a cool, it's a cool set. I love the book format you've got. Why does yours have a 15 in the corner? I'd like to know that. Do we know the significance of that?
I don't 15 and up. Very strong language. Very strong
Oh,
language. There's two live shows here. Or, sorry, three live shows here. One CD has two club shows, and then there's a Wembley 2004, which has songs from One Way Ticket. They were testing out songs from One Way Ticket. Like, seemed like a good idea at the time. Dinner Lady Arms, live versions with Frankie Poulain. And here's a really interesting thing for you, because like you, I collect the singles. I started collecting DVD singles, your UK DVD singles, which normally won't play here, but I found out I had a multi-region DVD player, so I started collecting them. And one of them has a live version of I believe it's Get Your Hand Off My Woman. And it's on here. It's on the Astoria show or the Nebworth show, one of the two. It's on disc 3. That B-side from that rare DVD single is on here.
I'm hoping, because none of the live stuff is on here, and like you, for budgetary reasons, this is why I bought the 2-disc set. Hopefully, I'm hoping they put those, eventually stick those live things out, because I'm just a big fan of the band, and hey, I hope they do. I hope they do the same thing for One Way Ticket. I can't imagine they'll do them moving forward after that, because they weren't on the majors anymore. But I hope they at least do it for One Way Ticket. So this was a fun thing to have. I've listened to it a couple of times, and you're right. I mean, they could practically do they could have put stuck an album out in 2004, made up of these B-sides, and nobody would bat an eye, because they're pretty good songs. They're And I will say that Bareback is the best AC/DC instrumental AC/DC didn't do. That sounds so AC/DC to me in the best of ways.
It does. This band was riding sort of a vibe of AC/DC at some times on this album. Which
I always said the Darkness are like AC/DC meets Queen. That's how I always describe it. But yeah,
on this album anyway.
Yeah, they kind of they really did develop their own sound, and I don't think they've done a clunker myself. But yeah, this is the big one, and I'm glad to see that there's renewed interest in this band, at least even if it's only for this album. But and I wish they tour Eastern Canada.
Yes. Now we should also mention apparently they have some kind of documentary in the works as well.
Yeah, that's been ongoing for quite a long time. I want to say at least 4 or 5 years, because they show little clips from it. They're sort of attempting to make the comeback when they got back together. And I read about that. I'm like, finally, this, because I'd forgotten about it. It'd been such a long time. When you hype things before they're ready.
Well, COVID happened too, so that probably derailed it for 3 years.
Predated COVID. This was way back. So but hey, the world needs. It's going to sound so funny. The world needs more darkness.
The world needs darkness.
The world needs more the darkness.
And fun, pure fun. You really get a fun vibe out of the live stuff, and I'm a sucker for gimmicks like this. But Justin introduces the band, and he's like, "Give me a D, give me an darkness." Yeah, I love it. It's so cheesy.
It's loving the cliches, but it's being reverent to the cliches, but still making fun.
Yeah,
it rides that line so well.
I highly recommend people check out the live stuff if they can afford it. So good, so worth it.
And if you've been, if you've as a fan, if you've known, they had all these B-sides and blah blah blah, and back in the downloading days, I wanted to find them. They're all those era ones are here. Planning, Permission, How Dare You Call This Love? It's Curse of the Talon Man. It's all here.
Which Justin kind of trashes a bit in the liner notes, but I've grown to like it.
I like
it. You even get the goofy, clean versions that you would never actually go out of your way to acquire. But
doesn't it say melon? Don't they say melon farmer? Get your hands off my woman, melon farmer.
I've always wondered. I thought he said mother, father.
Maybe. I might be making that up. Somebody said melon farmer, but
on one of these discs, I think it's the Astoria show, he's like, "We're going to play a big single. It's got a naughty word in it. Now, do you want us to play as the clean version or the original version?" Of course, what's the audience going to pick, right?
Yeah. I almost think that there's a Big Shiny Tunes.
Yeah,
I think
that's
there
right.
might be that was on the clean version was on that one of
It
those
was.
editions.
It
Yeah,
was. Yep.
which
100%.
tells you how big they were at one time. If they were that mainstream. Anyway, yeah, good reissue, no matter what form you get it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mike. What else? What's next? That was
Well,
a
you
good
want me to
start.
go again?
Well, yeah, you started it, and I kind of
Well,
picked it up. So
okay. I have two here, and I guess I'll show both at once because they go together. But these are superb.
yeah, I don't have those ones, but yeah, obviously classic albums. At first, if you held those up, I'm like, he found reel to reel versions.
No, I wish. They come in these cardboard slipcases, 2
Yeah.
CDs per disc. I wish I kept the stickers because they were kind of funny. The different editions. I remember this one's the extracurricular edition, and there's stuff on here. I have that old school box set. The one that comes in the roll in the old
Oh
cardboard
yeah, the
school desk.
64 to 74 one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult box set to listen to. It's got a lot of rough material on there. 5 discs plus a single. And yet here's more stuff. Here's more that I didn't have before. Studio extras are included. Schools Out, Gutter Cat, Alma Mater, and Elected, all different versions from the album version. I'm a big fan of Alma Mater, but that's a very different version. And then we have a live disc as well, live in Miami, Florida, May 27, 72. Now, interestingly enough, this one also has a live disc, and it is from April 2, 72. So only a month apart.
Oh, they were going like non-stop at this era.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're very similar. They all start with the same batch of songs, and yeah, there's only minor differences. They throw in some new material at the end of the set on Schools Out. Otherwise, the set lists are virtually identical. This has bonus material as well. You Drive Me Nervous, Under My Wheels, and Dead Babies alternate versions.
Now the live stuff from the Killer era, and I think I know the answer to this, but is there anything from the first 2 albums?
No.
No. So even by then, because I think maybe on the Love It to Death tour, they were still doing Return of the Spiders.
Or something like that. There was Levity Ball they might have still been playing.
Yeah.
I'm not really, Harrison would know.
Yeah.
But
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of those first 2 albums, but they're part of the. Yeah, and if we had Mike Meadus, the Alice Cooper collector, he would tell us exactly when they stopped playing them. But Return of the Spiders, I remember that one on Easy Action being probably the closest to what we would come to know as Alice Cooper, because for one thing, Alice was singing in his Alice voice. He wasn't just crooning.
Right.
But we're getting off topic. Cool reissues, as always, by Rhino. They always do a good job. And it makes you wonder why they took such a long time, because they put out like $1 Billion Babies and Welcome to My Nightmare in like 2002.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that Welcome to My Nightmare is going to need a redo because it only had like 3 extra tracks, and these albums deserve more.
I think they should put it out and have the DVD or Blu-ray of the TV special myself.
That'd be super. Throwing the Muppet Show episode. Although I think that was more Go to Hell. Or
that was more like 77 era.
Yeah, that was later on.
And I doubt we're going to see, as much, it would be cool, but I doubt we're going to see deluxe issues of Goes to Hell or Lace and Whiskey or anything like that. But you never know.
I don't understand why. Maybe it's just Alice's more
they weren't certified
on his presence.
Those albums didn't certify.
But it doesn't matter these days. I mean, they put out deluxe editions of Slick Toxic.
Well, yeah, I know. But Rhino, when you've got a big, they're going to want to put out the money.
And I suppose. Now, having said that, you can get rarities from that era in the excellent Life and Crimes box set.
That's a killer box set. Cool.
Between that, the old school box, and these, you've got a huge chunk of rarities taken care of.
All right. So next, if our good friend Peter Kerr is watching, don't watch. Avert your eyes, Peter. This is an album that I loved. I was excited when I heard it was coming out. It's an early episode of mine reviewing it. I always wished I'd bought it on vinyl. So when it got reissued, I thought, okay, I'll get this on vinyl. And that would be the Purple album. This is a special gold edition. Now, special. This has just got the 15 tracks that were on the deluxe CD when it first came out. This does not have any of the DC demos, like, because it's got his audition for Deep Purple. I may have to get the CD version for that stuff too. There's no other songs that they've redone here. I'm sure these are all tweaked the way that, like, the rock album, the blues album, the love album, maybe some extra stuff recorded. But I really like what he did with these songs. I like the originals just fine, but I do like what he did with them. I know that's sacrilege to people like Peter, and I get that. But yeah, interesting that after only 8 years, Coverdale's dipping into the well. But he said while he's around, he wants to be in charge of how these reissues come out. He cannot, he does not have the rights to pre-slided material. So why not reissue what he's done since then? So yeah, there you go.
Well, the pre-slided in material has been reissued quite well.
Well, it's interesting. If you're in here in Canada, it used to be a pretty big deal. I had to get mine on import, but it used to be, well, maybe ready and willing anyway. But Mirage, because they were on Mirage Records for the early '80s, like Ready and Willing, Heart of the City, Come and Get It. Unidisc in Canada has the rights to all of that Mirage material. And Whitesnake were one of the very, very few rock bands. So if you look on Discogs under the artists that were on Mirage, which was a subsidiary of Atlantic, not a lot of rock band, a lot of dance stuff.
Gotcha.
So, but all of those albums are now, you'll see them in the regular racks at Sunrise Records here in Canada. So which it's kind of neat,
Yeah.
Because I had a hard time finding Ready and Willing, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, he's got the right to reissue that stuff, and why not?
That one's on my list to get. I want the Purple album. I have 2 editions of it already. I have the original deluxe and the Japanese, which they had different bonus tracks.
What was the bonus track on the Japanese version?
Bear with me a second. I'll have it on.
Come on now. Come on.
Without having to grab the CD, I'll just check
instant recall, because I'm curious about that. I've got the deluxe that.
Now,
well,
keep
it had
in mind,
Lady Luck and Coming Home.
They both had bonus tracks, just different ones. Whitesnake, the Purple album, and of course there was the Purple Tour live. Bonus tracks.
I never listened to.
I'm thinking it was Soldier of Fortune alternate mix.
So
3 bonus tracks in total: Lady Luck, Coming Home, and an alternate mix of Soldier.
My favorite song in the whole package was one of those bonus tracks, and I love what they did with Coming Home. Love it. They almost made a new song out of it.
The Bolin era is so underrated, so I'm glad to see David give it some love. You know what, Peter? I'm going to address Peter directly. I love Peter.
Peter's a friend of the show, friend of both of our shows. Great guy.
There's a little bit of light ribbing going on over certain artists, but these updates are more Whitesnake. Okay, they're still the Deep Purple songs, but they're more Whitesnake. They're more for the Whitesnake fans. And I got to tell you, not every Whitesnake fan digs the old Deep Purple.
So it took me a long time to get back into that, even though, I loved Whitesnake. I had some Deep Purple best ofs. Wasn't until the Purple album came out, I had Burn. But when that came out, I'm like, well, I should get Stormbringer and Come Taste the Band. And Coming Home, I want to address that. You're right. They made it sound like a Whitesnake song, but the chorus on that first verse, Coming Home, I don't like that.
It's a little shaky.
It's weird. You know why it is? Because Glenn wasn't there to do the background vocals. That's Tommy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Normally you'd have the highs.
Yeah. No, I will tell you one funny anecdote, which is my good buddy Rob Vukovic, who is a published author. He's got his article in Kiss and Philosophy. He went to go see Whitesnake on the 1987 tour when Motley Crue was opening, and he brought a big sign with him that said "Play Purple." And David Coverdale saw the sign and directly addressed him and said, "We're not going to be playing any of that." And now look.
He had, the iron was hot. He had stuff. People were like interested in the 87 album, maybe slide it in. They were available. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny how if you go back, attitudes change about these things. When you talk about sounding more Whitesnake, and we'll get to the next thing here in a bit, but Love Child, the version of Love Child on here. That could have been a brand new Whitesnake track, and I wouldn't have blinked an eye. I would have thought, okay, this is a brand new track. That's how transformed it was. It sounds like a Whitesnake song.
Big shout out to Joel Hoekstra. I believe he was a real creative force in the Purple album, at least according to the documentary DVD. I don't know if the reissues come with the documentary or not, but it was really good. It was really good.
No, I thought it was well recorded. I thought they captured Coverdale's voice, pretty well in the studio. That's why I only bought the CD to the Purple tour. I listened to it once, and that was enough. But moving on. What do you got for us, Mike?
That's about it, Tim.
Woo!
I got some other things that were new releases this year, but I don't think any of them were reissues.
All right. Well, okay.
Yeah. But the wish list is hot. So, Mom, Dad.
So, an album that kind of came and went without any fanfare. I tried my best to promote it when it came out. A band I'm such a huge fan of. Honeymoon Suite. In 2008, they put this album out called Clifton Hill. And in 2023, we get Clifton Hill Revisited. That's signed by Johnny and Derry. Of course, that's a shot from, that's from Niagara Falls. If you watch the Burning in Love video, you'll see it. You'll see the Castle Dracula. And it's got a couple of acoustic songs, newly recorded bonus tracks. But I got to say, when I first got this, it wasn't cheap. It was rock, paper, merch. It wasn't cheap. And it said it was a CD version. So I expected there to be a little digipack CD when this came, and there wasn't. And thank God this came already open, because, Mike, as you know, I don't open my new vinyl.
Right.
This one came open. So I looked in it. There's the CD.
Okay.
Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but, I ripped it. But this is a great album. This was a real return to form for them, because they did this album in the early 2000s called Lemon Tongue.
Yep. In
some territories, it's called Dreamland. I compare it to slang. It was their slang. Didn't really sound like them. This is a return to form. Tom Tremuth came back as producer. It's got some cool looking vinyl, some orange splatter vinyl.
Beautiful.
And I think it's a really good album. Back in the day, there would have been singles from it, and blah, frickin' blah. Why am I wasting my time? Because it's over. That era of bands like that having singles, but whatever. It's good. I'm glad to get it added to vinyl collection. Now, what I would say is, like, they were putting out singles and videos from a new album. There's been no mention of that. That's totally dropped off the radar, and I don't know why.
What, in favor of the Clifton Hill reissue?
Just before that, it was like it just stopped. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, we like Honeymoon Suite. Does that album have Ray Coburn on keyboards?
It does have Ray Coburn on keyboards. Ray's back for that.
I'll tell Jex.
He's gone. Well, we should definitely tell Jex. Real quick, reissue came out. I had to snap it up. I love this album.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This is a nice Friday music reissue. Single record, which is all you need for a 10-song album. And, I was joking with someone. I said, the rate that they're going with, it's got to be the very finest. They're going to have basically 5 records with one song on each. So they're going to be singles, is what it's going to be.
Right.
Ridiculous. I won't go into a lot of detail with this, because I just did with the one and only Greg Renoff, but I do want to show this off, the Van Halen block, the Agar years. It could have been better, but knowing how the Van Halen camp works, we might not have gotten anything. So the fact that new Van Halen product is out was worth talking about.
Hang on, we can't let that go without a question. Give me one example. What you don't like that could be better. Just one.
There's really nothing rare on this.
It says B-sides.
Those aren't rare.
Rare.
They're not rare, Mike. They're not rare. Apolitical Blues is on the OU 812 CD. I didn't even realize that, however you say it, Baluchitherium. That's on the cassette and the CD. I did not realize it wasn't on the vinyl. I have the vinyl. Crossing Over, yeah, okay. You had to get the B-side of Can't Stop Loving You, but it's on CD. Respect the Wind, I never bought the Twister soundtrack.
No, you don't have to.
Now I don't have to. It's kind of not really. It's just kind of an instrumental. Humans Being was on the Best of Volume 1. And then you've got the 3 tracks they did with Sammy on Best of Both Worlds. That's it. So there's nothing really rare on here.
Suppose
now,
you're right.
Hopefully yet to come. Hopefully yet to come. Each individual sleeve is well done. They've reprinting the front and back cover and redoing the inner sleeves.
Yeah.
I will reiterate, and I will always reiterate it any chance I get, because it irks me to no end. As an old school just music fan, not just a Van Halen, I cannot get used to Warner Records. I don't like it. I don't like the logo. I don't like the name. It sounds incomplete. And, not to name drop too much, but if somebody wants to go back and watch the interview that I did with Greg, he was talking with Ted Templeman, because he did Ted Templeman's autobiography. Great read. Neil Young called Ted and said, what's with this Warner Records? I don't, as if Ted had something to do with it. So it's not just me. Neil Young doesn't like it either.
I don't like it. No.
First time I saw it was actually, and our good friend Harrison's a fan, when I got the reissue of Fleetwood Mac Live, the 1980 Live album. Warner Records. It looks like a newspaper's writing an article and they don't really know anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Warner Records. It's not Warner Records. Everybody knows it's Warner Brothers Records, and it's that iconic logo. And it's not just, it's the cartoons. It's not right. It's not right.
I agree.
Anyway, here we go. That's the set. I like it. Still hoping we'll see some unreleased, just really unreleased stuff.
Just one more question, Tim. It looks like the front cover has like a line through it.
It does, and I don't know why.
Oh, I hope it's not like a box cutter that accidentally went through it or something like that.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
Like I said, the Van Halen camp does funny things. They always did. This might not have come out at all. I don't know. The only thing is now I kind of feel like I have to get the first one to match it up, even though there's absolutely nothing extra. It's just the first 6 albums in one set. That's it.
And I have all the individual jewel case versions of those, so I don't need that. But I do want that. I will put it on my list, and mostly it's to have Respect the Wind on a Van Halen CD is why.
Yes, that is a cool thing to have for sure. That's the one thing that I didn't physically own, because I'm not a guy to go out and buy. Let's put it this way. I would have bought the soundtrack if that was the only place to get Humans Being.
I did buy the soundtrack when it was the only place to get Humans Being.
Yeah. A couple months later. One more thing. I did not know this was coming out, but it was a pleasant surprise. Yesterday and Today Live, back to 1991. This originally came out on Metal Blade Records. This is a Metal Blade reissue, 2 discs, and it's got 2 songs that they must have done on the night that were not on the original issue. And that's when, because I wasn't going to get it, but when I realized they had those 2 extra live songs, I have to have it. There are some bands that I just have to have, and I also got it on vinyl. And Chaz and I did an episode talking about this. This is a career. I mean, when this came out, this is a career spanning. It's something from almost every album they had done to this point, recorded on what was at the time their farewell tour. And I think they meant it at the time, but thankfully they're reunited. But yeah, more on Y&T to come. But yeah, those are some reissues that came out this year that I thought, yeah, these worthy additions, worthy of picking up again, because a lot of times there's got to be something that triggers something to make you buy something that you've already got. And right. In each of these cases, like for instance, The Darkness, it's got all that extra material.
It's exhaustive.
All in one convenient package. The Winger, Pull's a great record. It would cost like hundreds of dollars to pick up like an Indonesian original Atlantic pressing.
Right.
This wasn't too expensive. The Honeymoon Suite one was no brainer. It had never been on vinyl before.
Bonus tracks.
Y&T, enough said. Van Halen. I mean, I'm a Van Hagar fan, and I, have endured people crapping on that period forever. So when something new comes out, and that period had been ignored.
That's
years. Right. Never any remasters of those albums. I'm like, this has got to be one of the only cases.
Ignored out of spite, in my opinion.
Out of spite. This is going to be one of the only cases where there's multi-platinum albums that the only versions available were the original ones that came out.
Yeah.
Really, really weird. I got to say.
It was weird.
I'm not an audiophile per se, but the 5150 and OU812 in particular, much
Yes.
louder than the original CDs. So, yeah, and I know there's been a ton of other ones, like those Alice ones are cool. I'd like to get those, but you have to pick, and like, I just can't get everything. We it's a reality, right?
Right.
So you get the things that you can do get, and appreciate them. So yeah, I don't know. Anything to add? Like what? Okay, so now we're into November now. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the following year. What would you like to see? What are some things that are kind of nagging at you that I really wish they'd put this out finally, once and for all? Is there anything?
2024, right? So
Yeah, not necessarily anniversary editions, because
okay.
not all of these are. But what are some things that you're like, you know what? It's about time this came out again.
Well, love it to death. There's no excuse. That needs to come out. Even Muscle of Love, I think, would deserve some
Muscle of
kind
Love is an overlooked album, man. I like quite a
and you
bit.
could have fun with the packaging, trying to replicate the original cardboard box. That would be great. We would like to see the Darkness continue on with
Yeah,
a one-way ticket.
Yeah, there's a
I
lot
would
of B-sides there too.
I am disappointed that we have not seen an announcement for a Kiss Lick It Up box set yet. I was kind of counting on and hoping that we would see that.
I would think that the KISS organization is more preoccupied with the end of the road.
It's just that this was the year that it would have made for an anniversary. Not that you can't do it a year later. Goodness gracious, I have a Four Horsemen 21st anniversary of one of
well, I mean, there you go. Rush, Moving Pictures, and Signals were both off by a year.
I don't have.
I was disappointed. There you go. I was disappointed the Signals didn't come out on a CD.
I don't have the Signals, and I don't think there was anything on there that I needed. Otherwise, I probably would have got it.
It only came out on vinyl, and I was like, no, sorry, I can't justify it.
I would like to see those Rush 80s albums. I would like to see Grace Under Pressure.
We might see that next year, some sort of package with the. Actually, you know what? More than that, Mike. Sorry to cut you off, but you started talking about Rush, and I know Chris Preston's excited as comparison. I want Not Fade Away, and You Can't Fight It. When they put that big 40th anniversary box out with all of that stuff, and I'm like, I didn't buy it. But if it had that single, I would have bought it.
And here's another thing, Tim. Rush have a lot of live B-sides and other rarities, such as the Count Floyd version of The Weapon.
Yep.
It's really hard to collect, even like the 80s Rush singles with the B-sides, because there's a demand for them. And it's not every Rush single, but there's enough out there to make reissues.
For example, I've got the New World Man single. It's got a live version of Vital Signs that was not on Exit Stage Left, but it sounds like it was obviously recorded at the same time as those concerts. But their very first single, covering Not Fade Away, and then an original You Can't Fight It would have fit right along on that first album. And because Rush never have extra songs, they were they used up what they wrote. They did not believe in outtakes. The fact that there are 2 Rush songs out there that have never been on CD. Next year is the 50th anniversary of the first album. Come on, guys. Let's do it.
Being covers, could there be rights reasons? I mean, I'm sure Rush can afford
one of them is an original. One of them is a Lee Lifeson original.
Don't Fight It, yeah.
But I don't see why, there's almost, and I understand these guys, they have the high standards, but there's songs like Fancy Dancer and Garden Road. There are songs that there are really primitive live versions of. Their cover of Bad Boy. You could almost assemble, like a pre-first album EP.
Yeah.
And clean it up as best you can. And that crazy Rush fans like me would be all over it.
And you know what? If there's any feeling of shame for cashing in on these early rusty recordings, donate the money. I think John Rootsey died of leukemia. Donate the money to leukemia research or something like that.
Half of it to that, half of it to Neil's. There are ways to do it. Andy Curran, are you watching this? I guess he's not affiliated with Anthem anymore, but yeah.
You know what? There's one other reissue.
About the Rush, it made me think of something else. Go ahead. I'll see if I can retrieve it.
I just realized, and this is timely, we do have one other reissue that's on my Christmas list, which is the new Beatles Red and Blue album compilations, which is going to have their final single called Now and Then, and a bunch of
Is it
remixes.
final though? Because I'm pretty sure they said Real Love was going to be their final single.
Well, here's the story: is that they were working on this song. There was the anthology 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
3 didn't have any new Beatles material on it. It was the only one that didn't. They had Free as a Bird and Real Love on the first 2, and then nothing on 3. They were working on this song Now and Then, but then George said, guys, I'm not into it. I'm not into it. But now technology has gotten to the point where they can really do a number on getting John Lennon's vocals off of this original tape. And Ringo and Paul reconvened, got George's guitar part off of the 1995 sessions that they were working on. This really is the last thing. It was delayed from 1995. So that's 28 years. I believe it really is the last thing. And there's a documentary coming to Disney Plus as well. So I want that. I don't listen to the Beatles a lot anymore, and I kind of want to get back into that.
Well, that's a way there's definitely something to be said there for having quote unquote new material isn't a lot easier than it's an easier opening to revisit.
Although it's concerning that George wasn't into it. That's concerning to me. If George wasn't into it, maybe it's not that good of a tune.
I don't know. Yeah. I just thought of something, Mike. I just thought of it because 1984 was, I think, one of the best years of the 80s for great music all around.
We are defenders of the faith.
But I was thinking an album that I don't know what there is for unreleased stuff, but I know there is some. I would love to see a really well done reissue of the first Bon Jovi album. I don't probably never ever happen, but I love that album. And I can just imagine there's got to be leftover songs from.
And we know why that won't happen.
I know.
It's because John doesn't see it the way we do. I look at that album as top five Bon Jovi.
That was easy. I mean, for a first album,
it's great.
That's a darn good start.
Every song is good on that album.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it doesn't sound like modern Bon Jovi or even mid 80s.
No, it doesn't because it's good. Oh, yeah, I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head.
Animalize. I want an Animalize Deluxe as well. I know it's not the greatest album, but I mean, it was an important one. It was.
Let me meet you halfway there. An Animalize. I don't want to say a box set, but a reissue, deluxe reissue with a DVD Blu-ray of the Animalize Live Uncensored concert, which I don't think they own.
Probably not.
Was put out by that was from that early era where record labels did not have their own video divisions. I think that was put up by like RCA Columbia. Like it was put out by a video company. So that's why it was never reissued. It never, if you were to find an old copy of that, it doesn't say Mercury on it. But when I was first getting into Kiss in the early 90s, I remember actually renting that from a video store that had been there for years without being rented. The songs are 100 miles an hour, but I like the versions that are on there. It's the first time I ever heard War Machine, fell right in love with that song. Was surprised how much slower it was on the album. Paul's stage raps are fantastic. I love his guitar solo.
Which you have performed live on my show.
There's stuff out there. There's stuff out there that needs and it probably none of it'll happen, and what will come out are things that we weren't even expecting or thinking about.
That Animalized Live is my Alive 3.
Yeah, I get that. But and I have to think that if live albums were more popular in the 80s, it probably would have been. Yeah.
What did Queen would it be The Works? Would that be the 40th anniversary of The Works?
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite Queen albums. I mean,
I've been buying the Queen box sets. They're good. The Miracle was great. What a great box set.
I still don't have that. And see, like I said, it doesn't have to be an anniversary. That wasn't an anniversary.
I know a lot of people don't really care for it when it's like alternate mixes, take 6, take 8. But I find the Queen stuff was worth listening to in that way, There was
what I almost think it would be cool if they would select what they thought were the best alternate mix of each song and put out a compilation using those versions, because it's overwhelming to sit through 5 versions of the same song. Like when Kiss did the Love Gun reissue, and you've got that demo of Paul basically showing the guys how it goes.
How the
I found
chords
that
go.
fascinating. Fascinating. I don't want to listen to that all the time.
No.
And what I find is funny is, you know, and we're getting way off track here, but, you know, I'll make a post on Instagram and I'll look for a song to go with it. And you type in the artist name, and sometimes you can't find all the songs, but then you get down to interview discs and you're looking for Kiss songs, and it'll
Right.
come down to Paul talks about forming the band. That's not a song. It's a track on a CD, maybe, but it's not a song. Anyway, we're way past the point of making any sense. Which is what we do. Mike, Grab a Stack of Rock recently celebrated 1 year. Congratulations on that. And you know, I know that you know, you like to put new stuff out every week. Doesn't always happen, but you know, the cool thing is, if anybody's watched, Mike's got capable co-hosts that can helm the show without him. So, you know, what can we expect from Grab a Stack of Rock in the near future?
Well, I'm hoping to have Tim Derling back on again.
Not that guy.
Not that guy. No.
Oh, the heck, F that guy.
Well, we do have plans. We're taking a break. I don't know when this particular episode is dropping, but Grab a Stack of Rock will be back November 17th. We're going to be having your Tim's Vinyl Confessions cohort Jex Russell on with his friend Pla, and we're going to be just talking music and movies and probably a lot of,
you know, I've never actually met Pla. He's like a mythical figure. I've never actually met him.
It's like Snuffleupagus.
And for the yes, exactly. For those that, you know, he's called Pla because his name is Pierre-Luc Allard.
Yes,
Pla.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, Mike, thank you for doing this. I'm pretty sure we stopped talking about 2023 reissues 20 minutes ago or more, but thanks just the same.
Thank you.
Everybody follow Grab a Stack of Rock on YouTube. Follow MikeLadano.com. Mike's always writing and you know, coming up with content, and yeah, watch his YouTube channel. He's got some great classic Much Music clips, some great interviews, and you know, revisit some of the earlier episodes to find out just how much fun we do have.
We do. We really do.
And thanks everyone for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions. We will see you later.